Have you ever wondered if the life we live today could have been somehow planned before we were even born? What if there existed a wisdom capable of piercing the veil between the material and spiritual worlds, offering answers to questions we often don't even know how to ask? Stay with me until the end, because what you'll discover now could transform the way you look at life, family, and even those connections that seem inexplicable. Since the early 20th century, messages attributed to Emmanuel Chico Xavier's guiding spirit have intrigued and fascinated millions of people. He not only imparted profound spiritual teachings, but also showed us that our journey doesn't begin with the first cry in the crib. There is a spiritual planning, a preparation that takes place long before we take our first breath. And these lessons, when understood, can completely change the way we view the world around us. Today, we'll explore a topic that blends mystery, emotion, and reflection: reborn babies and their connection to what Emmanuel revealed to us about the life of the soul. You may have seen these dolls and thought they were just realistic toys. But what if I told you that, from a spiritual perspective, they can carry profound messages about love, memory, and even the soul's experience? This isn't fiction. It's not fantasy. What these messages show us is that the spiritual world is much closer than we imagine, and that every detail of our existence can have a greater purpose. Imagine for a moment that each life is a book. It begins to be written even before our first breath. Emmanuel, through the psychography of Chico Xavier, has given us glimpses of this invisible script, revealing that love, responsibility, and learning arise not only with the years we live, but with choices made on planes beyond our reach. Have you ever experienced situations where you felt an inexplicable connection with someone, as if you'd met them in another life? Or moments when certain events seemed designed to teach you something important? These experiences can be directly linked to these spiritual lessons. And understanding this helps us navigate life with greater awareness, empathy, and purpose. What makes these messages even more fascinating is the way they speak to all of us, regardless of our age or beliefs. Emmanuel reminds us, clearly and delicately, that life is a constant learning process, and that each soul goes through experiences essential to its growth. And when we look at reborn babies from this perspective, we realize that they become symbols of reflection, reminding us that each being has a story, an essence, and a path to follow that goes far beyond what meets the eye. So, as you observe or think about these small details, it's impossible not to wonder, are we paying attention to the messages the universe and spirits want to convey to us? Do we understand that everything around us, even a simple doll that seems to come to life in someone's hands, can carry lessons about love, patience, and the responsibility our souls must cultivate? Stay with me, because what follows will take you on an even deeper journey, revealing connections you may never have imagined, and showing how Emmanuel's words still resonate today, touching each of us in surprising ways. Now, as we begin to delve into this universe of teachings and mysteries, prepare to discover how these spiritual messages can illuminate aspects of your own life, and how they connect with the world of reborn babies in a way you've never seen before. Have you ever stopped to consider that the life we're living today may have begun long before our first breath? That our choices, our challenges, and even our most unexpected encounters may be part of a learning process our soul began before we were born? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover now could completely change the way you see yourself, others, and the world around you. Emmanuel Chico Xavier's spirit guide left messages that transcend time and still speak directly to our hearts. Through Chico's psychographies, he taught us that each life is an opportunity for evolution, that each challenge we face has a purpose, that the soul does not enter this world without having something to learn or teach. These messages remind us that life is not just a sequence of random events. There is a spiritual responsibility that accompanies us. Choices our consciousness made before incarnating, and lessons we must absorb to grow. Imagine, for example, a psychograph in which Emmanuel talks about the importance of cultivating empathy and love from an early age, showing that true learning lies not only in great achievements, but in how we treat each person around us. He reminds us that every action, no matter how small, can have a profound impact on our spiritual evolution. And if we reflect on this in the modern world, we realize that even amidst the chaos of everyday life, the essence of what he teaches remains relevant. Patience, understanding, and love are not just ancient values, but essential tools for living better, in harmony with ourselves and others. Have you ever felt like something or someone appeared in your life at just the right moment to teach you an important lesson? Emmanuel shows us that these experiences are not mere coincidences. They are manifestations of the learning our soul chose to experience. He talks about the importance of perceiving every detail, every sign, and every connection as part of a greater plan. It's something that often escapes the eyes of those who only look at the material world. This insight gives us a new perspective on our relationships, our mistakes, and even moments of pain, which, according to him, are opportunities for growth. And it is precisely at this point that his messages become so powerful, they don't remain merely theoretical, but connect with our everyday reality. Emmanuel teaches us to observe our own choices, to reflect on how we treat others, and to always seek to act with awareness. He talks about the soul before birth, about spiritual planning, and how our experiences are opportunities for evolution. All of this makes us wonder, are we truly attentive to the lessons life presents us? Do we understand the value of each encounter, each challenge, and each opportunity to love and learn? Now, as you begin to delve into these messages, it's impossible not to feel a deep connection with these words, as if Emmanuel were speaking directly to you, reminding you that your journey is unique, but also part of something much larger. And when we look at the world of reborn babies, we realize that these reflections can take on even more meaning, revealing symbols of life, learning, and spiritual experience that transcend what meets the eye. Stay with me, because what follows will lead you to understand how these lessons manifest in surprising ways, revealing connections you may never have imagined. Have you ever looked at a reborn baby and felt something different, as if they carried a presence beyond what meets the eye? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover could completely change the way you perceive these little dolls and, at the same time, open a window into spirituality in ways you might never have imagined. For many, reborn babies are simply extremely realistic dolls, made with impressive details that deceive even the most attentive eyes. But within the universe of spirituality, they take on a much deeper role. For those who follow Emmanuel's spiritual messages and psychographies, they become symbols that help us reflect on the soul, on memories, and on learning that transcends the physical plane. This isn't fiction or superstition. It's about realizing how certain objects can act as catalysts for spiritual and emotional experiences, awakening feelings and reflections that often lie dormant within us. Emmanuel, through the words of Chico Xavier, reminds us that the life of the soul doesn't begin when we first open our eyes. There are lessons learned long before birth, choices the soul makes, and connections established so we can evolve. And it is precisely at this point that reborn babies take on special meaning. They invite us to look beyond the obvious, to feel, reflect, and question. Could the way we interact with these dolls be reminding us of lessons the soul already knows? Could there be a spiritual memory manifesting through these small symbols, connecting us with past experiences or with learnings yet to come? Have you ever experienced situations where an object, a song, or even a memory brought to the surface deep emotions that seemed forgotten? This is exactly what happens when we look at reborn babies from a spiritual perspective. They act as mirrors that reflect the feelings, values, and memories we carry, even without realizing it. Emmanuel teaches us that the soul is continuous, that each experience is an opportunity for learning, and that symbols like these dolls can help us understand aspects of life that we often overlook, such as patience, care, unconditional love, and empathy. And if we stop to reflect, we realize that this connection is not only symbolic, but also practical. Observing or interacting with a reborn baby forces us to slow down, to focus on details, to exercise care and compassion. These are lessons that, although seemingly simple at first glance, carry enormous spiritual depth, reinforcing the idea that every life, every soul, and every experience has a purpose. What do you feel when you hold or observe a reborn baby? Is there something that awakens your intuition, your sensitivity, or even your emotional memory? These are questions Emmanuel encourages us to ask, because it is through personal reflection that we find answers that illuminate our journey. As you observe these small details, it's impossible not to wonder about the invisible connections that permeate life. Could the universe, or even the spiritual world, send us subtle signals through symbols like reborn babies? Could they be here to remind us that life goes far beyond what we perceive with our five senses, and that every experience, every sensation, and every moment carries essential lessons for the soul's evolution? Stay with me, because the next part will reveal how these spiritual messages manifest in even more surprising ways, and how they can touch each of us in ways you never imagined. Have you ever wondered what your life would be like if you could practically apply the teachings of a spirit like Emmanuel to your daily life? What you're about to discover may surprise you, because these lessons aren't just found in the pages of Chico Xavier's psychographies or in the stories we hear about the spiritual world. They have a transformative power that touches our daily lives, our choices, and even the way we relate to those around us. Stay with me until the end, because each word can open doors you never imagined existed within you. Emmanuel left us teachings that transcend time, revealing that the life of the soul is not limited to visible moments, but extends to every decision we make, every gesture of affection, every word we speak. He reminds us that care, patience, and empathy are not just virtues, but essential tools for evolving and living with greater awareness. Have you ever experienced situations where you felt that small actions could completely change the course of a day, or even a relationship? Emmanuel teaches us that it is precisely in these details that the soul finds opportunities for learning and growth. Imagine, for a moment, that every interaction, every daily choice, and every feeling you cultivate has a greater meaning. He invites us to reflect on how we can apply love in practical ways, how we can act with greater understanding, and how we can see challenges as true teachers of our evolution. For example, when we face family conflicts, problems at work, or even situations that seem hopeless, Emmanuel's words remind us that patience and empathy are key to transforming these experiences into learning. Not just frustration or pain, and it's not just about philosophy or theory. Applying these lessons means acting consciously in every moment. It means listening more, judging less, forgiving, and offering support when others need it most. It's realizing that life constantly gives us opportunities to exercise our spirituality, even in the simplest tasks. It shows us that true transformation doesn't come from grand, isolated gestures, but from the sum of small, daily actions that reflect the love and responsibility we carry within. Have you ever reflected on the impact your words and actions have on those around you? Emmanuel encourages us to look within, acknowledge our mistakes, and seek to correct our paths, as always with humility and dedication. He speaks about the importance of developing a heightened awareness, understanding that every challenge is an opportunity for growth, and that every act of kindness reverberates far beyond our perception. These lessons, when applied in practice, help us live with more purpose, cultivate healthier relationships, and draw closer to a spirituality that is real, present, and transformative. And as you begin to think about how to apply these ideas to your daily life, it's impossible not to feel a surge of change, a motivation to act differently, more attentively, and more lovingly. Emmanuel reminds us, with simplicity and depth, that life is a constant school, and that each moment is a chance to learn, evolve, and sow kindness. He inspires us to live with greater awareness, empathy, and love, guiding us on a journey that transcends the material world and connects us with the essence of our own soul. Now, as we begin to delve into how these lessons can translate into concrete actions and transform our daily lives, prepare to discover tools, reflections, and insights that will make you see life in a whole new way. And as you reflect on all this, on how Emmanuel's lessons can truly transform your daily life, I want to invite you to engage even more deeply with this experience. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what touched you most or awakened a feeling. It could be a memory, a reflection, a personal experience, anything you feel like sharing. Your participation here is not only important for you to understand and organize your own thoughts, but it also helps this channel grow and reach more people who need to hear these messages and connect with them. And if, throughout this video, you felt any emotion, identified with any of the stories, or discovered something that changes the way you view life and spirituality, click like. This simple gesture helps strengthen the reach of this message, allowing it to touch more hearts and reach people who are seeking exactly what we're sharing here. And, of course, subscribe to the channel to continue following this type of content. To delve into new stories, new spiritual lessons, and new discoveries that can transform the way we live and experience life, your presence, comments, likes, and subscriptions aren't just numbers. They're signs that together we can create a community that values reflection, empathy, and constant learning. And as you reflect on this and share your experience, we'll continue exploring in the next part how these lessons apply in even deeper and more practical ways, bringing insights that will impact your daily life in ways you might never have imagined. Have you ever stopped to consider that the life we're living now might be just a fraction of a much larger script, written before we even took our first breath? Imagine that every experience, every encounter, every decision you make doesn't happen by chance, but is part of a journey your soul began long before birth. It may seem strange or even hard to believe, but Emmanuel's messages, conveyed by Chico Xavier, invite us to consider precisely this perspective, that there is a hidden truth behind the situations we face, something that teaches us, shapes us, and sometimes challenges us in ways we can't even imagine. Stay with me a little longer, because what you're about to discover goes beyond what the rational mind usually accepts. Emmanuel speaks to us of a reality that runs parallel to our own, a spiritual universe that influences every detail of our daily lives. He reminds us that the soul is eternal, and that our presence in this physical world is just one chapter in a much larger story. Every gesture of love, every kind word, every moment of caravan, those that seem small or insignificant, carries a profound impact. A transformative force capable of shaping not only your trajectory, but also that of those around you. When we talk about reborn babies in this context, the mystery intensifies. To those observing only from the outside, they are extremely realistic dolls. Silicone works of art, painted and molded with details that seem to defy reality itself. But when we look through the lens of Emmanuel's messages, these small symbols take on a much deeper meaning. They become portals to reflections on the soul, on memories and experiences that we often cannot consciously recall. They invite us to realize that life is a series of choices, learning experiences, and opportunities that go far beyond what we perceive on the surface. Have you ever felt, while holding or looking at something seemingly simple, an intense emotion that seemed to come from within you, as if it were a memory you couldn't remember having? It's exactly this kind of connection that reborn babies evoke. Emmanuel teaches us that the soul carries experiences and learning that transcend time and space, and that these symbols, so realistic in their form, can awaken this dormant memory. They make us reflect on our responsibility to one another, on the importance of cultivating love, empathy, and awareness, not just with grand gestures, but in every detail of everyday life. It's fascinating to think that something so delicate can have such a profound effect. Every glance, every touch, every care given to these little dolls forces us to exercise patience, attention, and sensitivity, skills that Emmanuel always emphasized as fundamental to the development of the soul. And that's precisely what makes this connection so special. It reminds us that life, even in its simplest routine, is full of hidden lessons. We just need to be attentive, willing to observe and feel. There's a subtle beauty in what's invisible to the eye. And it's often these small experiences that carry revelations that directly impact our mindset and our ability to evolve. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because understanding what Emmanuel conveys to us is realizing that each of us is part of a web of learning and love that extends far beyond what we can perceive. He speaks about pre-incarnational choices, the importance of preparing the soul before birth, and how these lessons are reflected in our daily actions. Every detail of our behavior, every decision we make, and every feeling we harbor has a direct influence on how our journey unfolds, both physically and spiritually. It's an invitation to see life with greater awareness, to realize that there is a purpose, an intention, and a hidden truth in every experience, even those that seem trivial or confusing. And when we begin to connect these reflections to the world of reborn babies, we realize something even more fascinating. They function as living symbols of learning, memory, and care. Holding them, observing them, or simply contemplating them forces us to reflect on our own existence, the choices we've made, and the impact we have on each other. It's as if every detail, every feature, every expression of this little doll reminds us that we are constantly evolving, that our experiences are not random, and that life is, in fact, a continuous process of transformation. It's impossible not to be moved by the realization that something so simple and seemingly ordinary can carry such a profound message. Emmanuel inspires us to see beyond what meets the eye, to recognize that spirituality is present in every gesture, every feeling, every decision. Every moment we live is an opportunity to learn, to grow. It's to connect with ourselves and others in a more genuine and conscious way. And it is at this point that curiosity becomes even more powerful. To think that spiritual messages, Emmanuel's lessons, and even the symbolic presence of reborn babies can influence our mindset, guide our decisions, and help us discover hidden truths about life and ourselves. This realization opens us to a world of possibilities, a journey of reflection that invites us to rethink habits, attitudes, and even our way of relating to one another. Every seemingly insignificant detail takes on weight and meaning, and how we choose to react to each situation defines not only our personal growth, but also the impact we leave on those around us. It's fascinating to realize that the lessons Emmanuel taught us decades ago still resonate powerfully in the modern world, reminding us that life is made of conscious choices, care, and attention to what truly matters. By observing these connections, a sense of respect and reverence for the soul's own journey emerges. We begin to realize that each moment of reflection, each instant we pay attention to a detail, brings us closer to understanding a greater truth. What seems simple, like contemplating a reborn baby or reflecting on a psychographed message, is actually an invitation to delve deeper into consciousness, to understand that our experiences carry learning, transformation, and purpose. Each gesture of care, each act of attention, and each conscious decision is a way of aligning our lives with the teachings that transcend time and continue to touch us, demonstrating that the soul's evolution is not an abstract concept, but a daily and real practice. Comment here, I'm on this journey too. Have you ever stopped to consider that the life we are living may be just a small fraction of something much larger? Something that began long before our first breath, and that, somehow, continues to influence every decision, every encounter, and every choice we make today? It's difficult to accept at first glance, I know, but Emmanuel's messages, transmitted through Chico Xavier, invite us to reflect on this reality that lies beyond what we see, beyond what we touch, and beyond what the rational mind can usually comprehend. They show us that our existence is not just a sequence of random events, but a journey guided by lessons, responsibilities, and profound connections that our soul has chosen to experience. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover now could change the way you perceive life, family, and even the small details of daily life that previously went unnoticed. Emmanuel speaks about the soul before birth, about pre-incarnational choices, and the importance of each experience we live, revealing a hidden truth that we often ignore. Every gesture of love, every sincere word, every act of care has a real impact, not only on ourselves, but on everyone we interact with. He reminds us that the evolution of the soul depends on the awareness of our actions, the ability to learn from challenges, and attention to the small opportunities for transformation that arise every day. When we talk about reborn babies in this context, the mystery intensifies. To outsiders, they may seem like extremely realistic dolls, made with such precise details that they deceive even the most discerning eye. But when we observe them from the spiritual perspective that Emmanuel presents, they become powerful symbols for reflection on life, memory, care, and the soul's learning. It's as if every feature, every expression, and every touch invites us to look within ourselves, to perceive invisible connections, and to understand that there are profound lessons even in the most subtle situations. Have you ever felt, while holding or simply looking at something seemingly simple, an intense emotion that seemed to come from within, as if it were a forgotten memory or a truth your soul already knew? This is the essence of what Emmanuel teaches us, that there are lessons that transcend time, experiences that are not limited to physical life, and symbols like reborn babies capable of awakening our sensitivity, our attention, and our empathy in unexpected ways. It's fascinating to think that something so delicate can carry revelations that affect our mindset, our heart, and even the way we make decisions. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because Emmanuel's message isn't limited to abstract concepts, but connects directly with how we live and feel. He shows us that every experience, no matter how simple or seemingly insignificant, carries impact, learning, and opportunities for growth. It's an invitation to see the world differently, to realize that details matter, that choices shape not only the present, but the entire trajectory of the soul, and that there are invisible behind-the-scenes details in every situation that can teach us much more than we imagine. This perspective completely changes the way we view our daily lives. Our routine ceases to be merely a sequence of tasks and becomes a field for experimentation, reflection, and awareness. Every relationship, every conversation, every decision, whether at work, at home, or in leisure, time becomes an opportunity to apply spiritual principles, to act with more empathy, more patience, more attention, more care. Emmanuel reminds us that spiritual growth is not the result of great, isolated feats, but the sum of small daily actions. Conscious choices, gestures that, at first glance, may seem insignificant, but which have a real and transformative impact. And it is precisely at this point that reborn babies take on an even more special meaning. They act as catalysts for reflection, as living symbols that remind us of the importance of observing, feeling, and understanding life deeply. Every touch, every glance, every care given to these dolls can awaken us to hidden truths about ourselves, our memories, our decisions, and the very essence of our soul. They invite us to slow down, to connect with our own sensitivity, and to realize that every detail in life, even those that seem small or trivial, has meaning, purpose, and the potential for transformation. When we begin to perceive these connections, a sense of reverence for our own soul's journey naturally emerges. We feel that we are not here by chance, that every experience, every challenge, and every moment of joy or difficulty are part of a much larger storyline involving learning, awareness, and evolution. Emmanuel guides us to see this perspective clearly, inviting us to observe life more closely, to reflect on our own feelings, and to understand that spirituality manifests itself in practical ways, even in the simplest everyday tasks. This approach allows us to understand that life is not only what it appears to be, but also what lies hidden behind actions, encounters, and choices. Every situation, every gesture, every sincerely spoken word is a reflection of the soul's journey, a fragment of learning that can transform us if we are attentive. Emmanuel inspires us to cultivate this awareness, to perceive the influence each detail has on our own journey, and to move toward a mindset that values responsibility, love, and the positive impact we can create as we delve into this universe of reflections. We begin to realize that Emmanuel's teachings and the symbols represented by reborn babies are not isolated. They intertwine, revealing a broad and profound vision of life, the soul, and the choices that shape our destiny. It is an invitation to observe behind the scenes of existence, to understand that there is an invisible web of learning where every detail counts, and that true transformation comes from awareness applied to each moment lived. It is fascinating to see how ancient messages continue to resonate powerfully in the present, reminding us that the evolution of the soul is continuous, practical, and full of nuances that often escape the superficial eye. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, exploring how these insights can alter the way we relate to the world and ourselves, and how understanding these lessons can reveal hidden truths that remain hidden in our lives to this day. It's an opportunity to see life in a new light, to perceive the true impact of each action, and to understand that each choice is part of a much larger journey, full of learning, care, and transformation. Comment. This makes sense to me. Have you ever stopped to reflect on how much more life is than what we can perceive with our five senses? Emmanuel, Chico Xavier's guiding spirit, invites us to see this invisible dimension, a reality that transcends time and space and manifests subtly in every experience we live. The messages he conveyed through psychography are not just words written on paper. They are invitations to reflect on the essence of life, on our own soul, and on how each decision and gesture has a profound impact on our journey. It's as if each teaching were a light directing our consciousness toward paths of understanding, care, and transformation, reminding us that nothing in life happens by chance. Stay with me, because the richness of these teachings is immense. Emmanuel speaks to us about the spiritual responsibility each of us carries, about the learning that the soul begins long before birth, and about the importance of cultivating love and empathy in every relationship. He explains clearly and directly that each life is planned on levels that transcend our immediate perception, that every choice we make in our daily lives reflects decisions made on deeper planes, and that every experience, no matter how simple it may seem, offers an opportunity for growth, understanding, and evolution. These are lessons that resonate to this day, adaptable to the modern world and our daily relationships, whether with family, at work, or in moments of introspection. An example that perfectly illustrates this connection comes from one of Chico Xavier's psychographies, in which Emmanuel recounts the case of a child who, even before birth, had been chosen to teach his parents lessons of patience, respect, and unconditional love. He describes, with impressive sensitivity, how the child's presence transformed the entire family dynamic, demonstrating that the soul's learning is not limited to newborns, but to all who come into contact with them. The message is clear. The spiritual world acts as a roadmap that influences our lives, offering opportunities for evolution that we often overlook, but which are fundamental to our journey of inner growth. And it's fascinating to see how these reflections connect with the challenges of the modern world. Emmanuel reminds us that amidst the hustle and bustle, stress, and seemingly trivial decisions of everyday life, the soul is always in motion, learning, adapting, and evolving. Every gesture of kindness, every word of understanding, and every act of empathy are not just one-off actions, but conscious choices that reflect our spiritual maturity and the responsibility we carry. It's a powerful lesson about mindset, the importance of acting consciously, and the real impact our actions have not only on ourselves, but on the universe around us. Have you ever felt like someone entered your life at exactly the right moment, bringing an unexpected lesson or opening a path you hadn't seen before? Emmanuel explains that these connections aren't coincidences. They're part of a larger plan, decisions of the soul that manifest concretely in our daily lives. It's at this point that we feel the depth of his teaching. Every experience, every encounter, and even every challenge carries an opportunity for spiritual learning, something that transcends mere chance and connects directly to our inner evolution. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because understanding these messages means realizing that the life of the soul is not linear, but full of nuances, revelations, and behind-the-scenes events that influence everything we experience. Emmanuel teaches us that empathy and love are not just virtues to be practiced when convenient, but essential tools for navigating the complexity of existence. He shows us that every difficulty, every disagreement, or conflict has a purpose that we often cannot immediately perceive, but that, if we look closely, reveals hidden truths and propels us toward profound transformation, aligning our mindset with a broader and more mature consciousness. And it is in this context that the emotional connection becomes so powerful. As we delve deeper into these stories and teachings, we begin to realize that we are not alone on our journey. Each lesson conveyed by Emmanuel acts as a silent guide, showing paths of reflection, understanding, and growth that can be applied practically, even in the most mundane details. It is the awareness that every action has an impact, that every word carries energy, and that every choice is an opportunity to align our lives with principles of love, responsibility, and evolution. By reflecting on these ideas, our perception of life changes completely. Experiences cease to be mere random events and become part of a larger script, a web of learning and meaning that connects the physical world with the spiritual. Every challenge faced, every relationship experienced, and every moment of introspection become opportunities to understand ourselves and others more deeply. Emmanuel reminds us that true wisdom lies not only in intellectual knowledge, but in the practical application of these teachings. In daily care and conscious attention to everything around us, it's impossible not to be moved by how these messages span time, connecting the past, present, and future, offering a comprehensive vision of the soul's life. They challenge us to rethink our attitudes, to value each experience, and to recognize the impact of our decisions. Through them, we begin to understand that love, empathy, responsibility, and spiritual learning are not abstract concepts, but concrete elements that shape our journey and that of everyone around us. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, exploring how these lessons can be felt and applied directly, influencing not only our perception of life, but also the way we connect with others, how we make decisions, and how we build our own story. With awareness, care, and attention to the details that make all the difference. Comment here, I'm on this journey too. Have you ever wondered why something so simple, seemingly just an object, can evoke such intense emotions, such vivid memories, and such profound reflections on life? Reborn babies, those incredibly lifelike dolls that enchant and even move those who see them, go far beyond what they seem at first glance. For many, they are simply a work of art, made of silicone, painted and detailed with such precision that they confuse the eyes and the heart. But for those who view them through the lens of spirituality, especially under the teachings of Emmanuel, they can be so much more. Living symbols of connection with the soul, mementos of pre-existing experiences, and subtle reminders that life is a journey full of learning choices, and meanings that go far beyond the physical plane. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover may change your perception of memory, existence, and purpose. Emmanuel taught us that each soul comes into the world with specific lessons, with pre-incarnational choices that shape experiences, encounters, and even the way we interact with others. And when we look at reborn babies, this symbolism manifests itself in an intriguing way. They seem to evoke feelings that belong not only to the present, but that carry echoes of past experiences, fragments of soul memory that remind us of who we are and what we came here to learn. It's as if by touching or observing them, we are invited to connect with a hidden truth, something that cannot be seen but can be felt intensely. Have you ever felt that tightness in your chest, or an unexpected warmth when looking at something that seemed alive, even though you knew it wasn't? This phenomenon is no coincidence. It speaks directly to the idea that the soul carries memories, lessons, and experiences that we often can't consciously access, but which can emerge when in contact with symbols that evoke care, protection, and attention. Emmanuel always emphasized that spiritual learning is continuous and that every gesture, every feeling, and every decision is part of a complex web of experiences that intertwine to teach profound lessons. Reborn babies, in this sense, serve as catalysts for this reflection. By caring for, observing, or simply contemplating these dolls, we are challenged to awaken the empathy, patience, and sensitivity that are part of the soul's growth. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because the connection goes beyond momentary emotion. The symbolic presence of these babies forces us to think about responsibility, about how we relate to the world, and about how every detail, no matter how small, can carry an impact. Emmanuel reminds us that the soul develops in layers, that physical and spiritual experiences are connected, and that every opportunity for attention and care is a chance to evolve, to reflect on our habits, and to learn about ourselves. It's an invitation to realize that life is a constant exercise in consciousness, and that every gesture, even when faced with something symbolic, is a practice of transformation, of mentality, and of deep connection with what truly matters. It's curious to observe how the mind reacts when touching or interacting with a reborn baby. There's a mixture of nostalgia, tenderness, and even uneasiness, as if dormant memories are momentarily awakened. Emmanuel teaches us that these signals aren't just fleeting emotions. They indicate that we're connecting with more subtle aspects of our own soul, with memories and lessons that transcend time and can be understood more clearly if we allow ourselves to feel, reflect, and observe. It's a process of inner awakening, a way of realizing that our life experiences from the simplest to the most complex carry meaning, purpose, and lessons that go beyond what we can rationalize. By delving into this perspective, we begin to realize the importance of every detail and every gesture. Caring for something symbolic like a reborn baby becomes an exercise in empathy, attention, and love, elements that Emmanuel always emphasized as essential for spiritual evolution. And this is precisely what leads us to reflect on our own lives. Every action, every decision, and every relationship can be seen as a learning ground, a space to practice patience, understanding, and connection, reminding us that spirituality is not distant or isolated, but embedded in every moment lived, in every choice made, and in every feeling experienced now. I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because this experience goes beyond simple contact with an object or the momentary emotion it evokes. It's about understanding that there's a bridge between the physical and spiritual worlds, between the visible and the invisible, and that, by connecting with these symbols, we can access valuable lessons about ourselves, our relationships, and how we approach life. It's an opportunity to examine the soul's journey, recognize patterns, reflect on past decisions, and experience, in a practical way, how spiritual learning manifests itself in everyday life, revealing truths that were often hidden but await discovery and integration. This connection not only sparks curiosity, but also provokes intimate reflection. How do we relate to life, responsibility, and love? How do our attitudes impact the journey of those around us? How can we transform our mindset to act with more awareness, attention, and empathy? It's remarkable to realize that something seemingly simple, like contemplating or caring for a reborn baby, can be the trigger for accessing insights into the soul, past experiences, and one's own personal evolution, opening a door to a deeper understanding of what it truly means to live and learn. The beauty of this experience lies in its subtlety, in the fact that spirituality manifests itself silently yet powerfully in every gesture, every look, and every awakened feeling. Emmanuel guides us to realize that life is a web of learning, a sequence of decisions and experiences that shape our consciousness and invite us to act with love, care, and responsibility. By connecting with symbols like reborn babies, we have the chance to understand that the evolution of the soul is practical, concrete, and present in every detail of daily life, and that true transformation happens when we realize the impact of each action on ourselves and others. Comment here. I'm on this journey too. When we think about Emmanuel's messages and the lessons he left us through Chico Xavier, it's impossible not to realize how much they go beyond theories or spiritual concepts far removed from our everyday lives. The true power of these teachings lies in their practical application, in how we can apply each reflection to our daily lives, in every decision we make, in every relationship we cultivate, and in every choice that shapes the course of our own journey. Emmanuel invites us to look within, to question our mindset, to observe our habits, and to realize that true transformation begins when we understand that we are responsible not only for what we do, but also for the impact our actions have on others. Stay with me, because it's fascinating to see how small changes in attitude can have enormous effects. For example, he reminds us that the simple act of listening attentively, offering understanding instead of judgment, and practicing empathy even in the face of everyday conflicts is already a concrete step toward a more balanced and meaningful life. Every gesture, however subtle, carries an energy of care that reverberates not only in others, but also in ourselves, creating a cycle of learning and growth that directly reflects our spiritual and emotional evolution. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because applying these lessons in everyday life requires more than goodwill. It requires awareness, attention to detail, and a willingness to reflect on our own choices. Emmanuel reminds us that we often seek external solutions to internal problems, when in fact the key lies in observing ourselves and transforming our mindset. Every conscious decision, every moment we choose to act with love rather than impulse, creates a real and lasting impact on our lives and those around us. It's as if each gesture becomes a brick in the construction of a more aligned, meaningful, and purposeful existence. The practical application of Emmanuel's messages also challenges us to face hidden truths about ourselves. He shows us that spiritual responsibility is not something distant or abstract, but something that manifests itself behind the scenes of everyday life. In the choices we make, the words we speak, and even in the way we treat those who depend on us, whether emotionally, physically, or spiritually. It is at this point that we begin to realize that life is not just a series of random events, but a web of interactions and learning experiences where every detail counts, every relationship matters, and every gesture of love or care transforms the landscape around us. Imagine, for a moment, if we applied this awareness to all our interactions, at work, at home, with friends, even with strangers who cross our path. Every action, however small, would have weight, meaning, and impact. Emmanuel shows us that this is not idealism, but a possible practice, a way to develop empathy, patience, and discernment. He invites us to observe our own reactions, to understand our motivations, and to realize that, often, spiritual evolution occurs in the small, everyday choices, in the details that go unnoticed, but carry incredible, transformative power. And there's something even deeper to this. Emmanuel's teachings teach us that we don't need to wait for great moments or extraordinary events to practice love, empathy, and awareness. Every everyday situation, every unexpected challenge, or every seemingly simple interaction is an opportunity to apply these lessons to realize the impact of our decisions, and to act with attention, integrity, and care. It's a way to bring spirituality into everyday life, making it practical, tangible, and powerful, capable of generating true and lasting transformation in our lives. When we internalize this, we begin to realize that the spiritual journey is not separate from practical life, but is embedded in every gesture, every word, and every choice we make. Emmanuel inspires us to transform our mindset, to examine our decisions more deeply, and to understand that spiritual responsibility manifests itself in every moment we live. Every action we choose, every feeling we cultivate, and every relationship we nurture is an opportunity to align our attitudes with the principles of love, care, and evolution he taught us. This awareness brings motivation, courage, and clarity. It makes us realize that we are not just passengers in the flow of life, but active participants in our own transformation, capable of positively influencing the world around us. Emmanuel has always emphasized that practicing love, empathy, and responsibility is not just a virtue to be admired, but a powerful tool for creating impact, strengthening relationships, and developing the soul in practical and meaningful ways. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, exploring how these lessons can be directly felt, how they can concretely influence our attitudes and decisions, and how they can help us build a more conscious, fulfilling journey connected to the essence of life. When we begin to observe each gesture attentively, each choice responsibly, and each relationship with care, we realize that true transformation is not a distant event, but an ongoing process that manifests itself in every moment lived, in every experience felt, and in every learning opportunity we encounter along the way. Comment: this makes sense to me if you've made it this far. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being on this journey with me. It's incredible to be able to share these teachings from Emmanuel and reflect together on how they apply to our lives. our feelings, and our daily choices. If you felt this content brought you any insight, some reflection, or simply awakened something within you, please leave a comment below. I'm with you until the end. Knowing that we're connected in this conversation makes all the difference and helps us continue to spread these messages. If you identified with any part of this video, please like it now, naturally, as a gesture of recognition that these ideas touched you. Each like is a small sign that we are growing together, reflecting together, and that this type of content continues to resonate in the lives of those seeking to understand more about the soul, spirituality, and everyday lessons. And if you haven't signed up yet, take the opportunity to join this community. Here the goal is to walk side by side, exploring reflections, stories, and revelations that can transform the way we see the world and ourselves. Each registration is a way to get closer to this flow of learning, discover new insights that can truly impact your life. There's a video here that complements this topic, and it will delve even deeper into Emmanuel's lessons and how we can apply each teaching in a practical, direct, and transformative way. Click and stay with me there because the journey is just beginning. There's so much more for us to discover and experience together.